Well, welcome councillors, our Chief Executive Officer, General Managers, Executive Staff and those who have joined us on the live stream for today's ordinary meeting of Council, the Bundaberg Regional Council. First, I'd like to acknowledge as a community and as a council the traditional custodians of the land and the elders past, present and emerging. We would also like to acknowledge those Australians who have given the ultimate sacrifice and service for our country. Before going to the official part of the meeting also, I'd like to pay our respects as a council to Alan Stewart, who passed away in March this year. Alan was aged 88, and Alan was a very popular former member of the Bundaberg City Council, serving 2 terms before retiring to the Sunshine Coast with his wife, Margaret, and I'd certainly like to, as we already have by way of notes and flowers, but also today as a united council, pass on our thoughts to all of Alan's family. And that's so noted in the minutes for today. The first item of business is item B1, the confirmation of the minutes. I now move that the minutes of the ordinary meeting of council held on the 24th of March 2020 and the statutory post-election meeting on the 14th of April 2022 be taken as read and confirmed. Can I have a seconder, please? Seconder, Councillor McPhee. Yep. All those in favour? I'll just do that again. All those in favour? Okay, those against? No, so moved. The next item of business is the declaration of material personal interest or conflict of interest. I now invite councillors to declare any conflict of interest and or material personal interest in any items to be discussed at today's meeting. I'll just, from the floor first, get Councillor McPhee. Yep.
So I'll just read this.
Yes.
Pursuant to Section 175E of the Local Government Act 2009, I wish to inform the meeting that I have a real conflict of interest in relation to the petition that was brought before council, in that I was approached by businesses before being elected and penned the letter to council. So having stated this conflict of interest, I will leave the room and not vote on the matter when it's brought up.
Thank you, Councillor McPhee. As Councillor McPhee has stated that she'll be leaving the room, there is no need to vote on the matter. I'll just go around all the councillors. Councillor Barnes? No. Councillor Honour?
Yeah, Mr Mayor, look, I could possibly perceive conflict of interest in that I hold an exploration permit for mining on a quarry material change of use that I have at Clark's Road, Gingy. It's pegged out on the site. It is only within the material change of use perimeter, and the purpose of the exploration is for the analysis of rock to possibly use for building purposes in the construction industry. So I'd just like to declare that perceived interest, and I wish to stay in the room and vote on the matter and take part in the discussion. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Honour. Now that Councillor Honour has identified a perceived conflict and has chosen to stay in the room, first of all, I think we have to just get clarification about whether he has a perceived or vote. Correct. Yeah, so I'll just put it to the room, is that as Councillor Honour has identified perceived conflict Honour, I'll just vote around the room. Has Councillor Honour a perceived conflict in this matter by show of hands? So those that say yes, show of hands. Those that say no, the matter is judged in the noes. So Councillor Honour, there is not a perceived. So I believe we don't have to vote now. We still, yeah. So the vote is that he's got no conflict. But the other side of it is that he actually has to stay in the room. So I'll just put the vote to the floor that Councillor Honour. So I now move that the remaining council is determined that Councillor Honour does not have a conflict of interest in item D. What did you say there before? C2 and of today's agenda, and that he can stay and vote on the matter. Can I have a seconder, please? A seconder, Councillor Bartel. All those in favour? Those against? No, so moved. Thanks, Councillor. Councillor Trevor?
No.
Councillor Bartels?
No problem.
Councillor Learmont? Councillor Mitchell?
No.
Councillor Cooper? Councillor Haberman?
No.
Councillor McLaughlin? No. And Councillor Dempsey is no. So we now move on to the items before us today. Our first item is C2. It's a notice of motion. I call Councillor Bartels.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, the subject of the notice of motion that I present today is Mineral Development Licence Applications, Bundaberg Region. Recommendation that I put before Council today is that the Bundaberg Regional Council advocate to oppose Mineral Development Licence Application MDLA 3040 and any potential coal mining activity in parts of the Bundaberg region that have high value agriculture or tourism and environmental sensitivity.
Motion. Can I have a seconder, please? Seconder, Councillor Haberman. Councillor Bartels, you wish to speak further in relation to the motion?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The background behind this report, Mr. Mayor, is that on the 10th September 2019, Fox Resources announced drilling exploration results for the Bundaberg Coal Coking Project EPC 1523. The company's tenements, including high-value agricultural areas around Sharon, Welcome Creek, Moore Park Beach, Meadowvale, Moreland and Avondale. Company's public announcement noted that coal exploration had been undertaken in the region since the 1960s. Encouraged by the exploration drilling results, on the 8th of October 2019, Fox Resources announced that they had submitted a Mineral Development Licence application to the Department of Natural Resources, Mines and Energy, MDLA 3040. Although determination of the MDLA Mineral Development Licence application is a matter for the Queensland Government and does not grant approval to commence mining, I recognise the legitimate concern of residents in Division 1 and publicly declared my opposition to mining activity in this region. On the 27th of November 2019, Mayor Jack Dempsey stated his view on intensive mining activity is not appropriate on prime agricultural land. I agreed with the Mayor when he said there's too much potential for conflict with agriculture and tourism. It's not compatible with Bundaberg region being the food bowl of Australia. During the council election campaign, Mayor Dempsey again stated his opposition to a coal mine on the 26th of February 2019. That should be 2020, I think, Mr. Mayor. And the Mayor and I held a joint media conference to reiterate our common position, and I thank him for supporting me on this matter during the campaign. We now have a mandate for Council to formally oppose the granting of MDLA 3040 by the Queensland Government. Our reasons are to protect the region's livability, agriculture, water resources, tourism and environment. If the licence application wasn't approved, it would allow Fox Resources to use seismic survey and drill important agricultural land in the search of coking and meteorological coal over a period of 5 to 10 years. Pending the exploration results, submission would likely be made to the state government seeking permission to grant approval for a substantial mine. The coal mine from this site would likely travel across the region to the Bundaberg port, where it would be loaded onto ships for export. There are significant environmental issues that would arise from coal mining, including impacts on water, flora and fauna, and would have long-lasting detriment to our region. Councillors, I ask you to support this motion today.
Thank you, Councillor Bartel. Does any other councillor wish to raise any queries or speak against the motion? All those in favour? Those against? No, so moved. The next item of business is item D1, As Councillor McPhee has already identified that she'll be vacating the room, I'll just wait until Councillor McPhee leaves before going on. Thank you, Councillor. So, Council has received a petition from CBD businesses of Bundaberg in relation to parking. I now move that the petition be received and noted. Can I have a seconder, please? Second is Councillor Honour. All those in favour? Those against? No, so moved. Just ask Councillor McPhee. Thank you, Councillor McPhee's return to the room. I'd now like to move certainly the next items in relation to portfolios, and I'd like to move that the order. First of all, there was a late item that was brought forward to this particular council meeting. So in relation to D2, I'd like to move that the order of business for today's meeting be amended and late item D2, establishment of council portfolios and appointment of spokespersons, be the next item for consideration. Can I have a seconder, please? Second, Councillor Barnes. All those in favour? Those against? So carried, so moved. The item D2 is in two parts. And I now move that the following council portfolios be established: economic development, organisational services, water and wastewater, roads and drainage, parks and gardens, waste and recycling, sport and recreation, community services, airport, COVID-19 recovery and disaster management, health, compliance and enforcement, arts, culture and events. Can I have a seconder, please? The seconder is Councillor Barnes. Yep. Does any council wish to raise any queries or speak against the motion? We'll go first, Councillor Haberman.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Just a query in regard to planning and portfolio. Will we as council be doing some releases in regard to that as to why there is no planning portfolio? I just believe that it could be a fairly hot topic, and we probably, I believe we should get some immediate release out promptly to address that.
Yeah, Councillor Hammond, yeah, media release will be issued at the end of this meeting in relation to all portfolios, including any questions in relation to any previous portfolios. And that whilst it's the planning portfolio, there's a number of changes in the other portfolios as well. So yes, media release will go out. Thank you. Yeah, thank you. So, Councillor Honour, and I think they're not over here yet. Councillor.
Just a question, Mr. Mayor, in relation to the portfolio named Parks and Gardens, does environment and natural resources include in that item, if that was the case? Just a clarification, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, I'm, as we discussed at the previous meeting, is that that the environment part comes part of the Parks and Gardens, but just to clarify that through for you, Mr. CEO, to the General Manager.
Yes, it does, Mr. Mayor. We're just trying to simplify portfolios down to, I guess, the bare basics.
Yeah.
Thank
in
you.
the expanded version, you can see what the allocation of roles is.
That's right. Thanks, Councillor Honour. Councillor Mitchell, yeah.
Mayor Dempsey, planning and development is an area that creates great public interest and generates the most robust community discussion and engagement. That's exactly why the portfolio should continue to exist with a councillor spokesperson. We've been elected to serve our community by listening to people in the local area and then representing their views on council. Councillors are expected to represent the interests of the community. I believe not having a planning and development portfolio takes away a ratepayers, residents or special interest community groups avenue to put forward their views to a nominated spokesperson who is seen to be their representative around the table. I believe the community has elected 10 councillors and a mayor, expecting that a portfolio of one of council's most important roles, planning and development, would continue. We're the decision makers and we should not be agreeing to dismantle a process that gives confidence to ratepayers that their elected councillors are accessible and prepared to face the community.
Thanks, Councillor Mitchell. We've got to finish with one thing. So, as discussed previously, in relation to obviously a modern council, particularly in the areas of comments and guidance from the Triple C, from the A Office of the Independent Office, as well as looking at Balcara and the ramifications of Balcara across a number of councils, particularly the larger councils from that were involved in those particular areas, as well as certainly the compliance, and as discussed with all councillors, was that councillors get a up-to-date sheet. I'll ask the CEO to go into a little bit more every Friday of every planning application, and as we all know and has already been explained to councillors, every councillor has the opportunity to query any application, not just the applications in their particular division, for openness and transparency. But I'll just, through you, Mr. CEO, is just highlight some of the things that we discussed previously, but also the way to lead a modern council in Queensland.
Mr. Mayor, can I just clarify whether Councillor Mitchell is moving an amendment first, back to the meeting procedure?
Yeah, so, actually, yeah, so Councillor Mitchell, you're moving an amendment? What's that?
I am not.
No. So, actually, that's a good point. As you're not moving an amendment, we're talking about the particular portfolios that are before us. I'm happy to get people's feedback into that, but it's not actually in the actual movement of the portfolios before us here today.
What was that? What did you say, sorry, Bill?
My question, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, hold on, Councillor. What's that?
There's no debate unless there's an amendment, Mr.
Yeah, so there is, as quite rightly identified, as there is no amendment, we're actually debating something that actually isn't in the actual motion that's been moved and seconded before us. That can be something else at a later date. Happy to take that on board. Go through.
I was just asking who the seconder was.
The seconder was Councillor Barnes.
That's right, thank you.
Well, so Councillor McPhee, then Councillor Barnes. Yeah, Councillor.
So I'd just like to speak in relation to the motion too, Mr. Mayor. And it's upon reflection and having time to think and inquire about this matter, I'm not 100% convinced that it's in our community's best interest to not have a plan of development.
Yeah, so Councillor McPhee, as explained to Councillor Mitchell, is the items are now before us. The motion is in relation to these particular portfolios that were put before all councillors. So whilst obviously making a statement, but the statement has to be, and you'll go through a little bit later in relation to model rules and the meeting and so forth, have to be pertinent to the actual motion that's put before us. Because that motion doesn't mention that particular item, happy to take a short comment, but there's no debate as such in relation to unless the amendments moved. Yeah, and then what we'd have to, I'm not going to preempt that, but we certainly have to look at all of the complete motion. Yeah.
So am I?
Yes, you go.
So just on that point, I'm not versed in all of how these meetings work, like as in all the intricacies of them. But I do just want it noted for the record that I do have hesitations, or I'm not fully convinced that this is in the best interests of our community to not have a planning and portfolio.
Thanks,
Planning and
Councillor.
development portfolios.
Councillor Barnes, yep.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. To me, I'd like to request that the minutes of the meeting be endorsed with my concerns that a planning and development portfolio has not been assigned to an elected member of the council. So that could be included in the minutes, please. And I'll move an amendment.
Mr. Mayor, can I just clarify that can't be part of the minutes the way that's been phrased?
Yeah.
The minutes have to reflect the vote of the council on the matter before you.
Do you have to do a division, request a division?
No, so yeah, it's pertinent because later on there's an item that I hope all councillors have written in relation to procedures, and it'll be voted on the conduct, and it'll be voted on the actual meetings and so forth. I think it's the second part of one of the divisions that it's all been explained in there, just general running of meetings. Okay, so Councillor Barnes, did you want to note that in the technical part of the report?
Yep, that's fine, as long as it's in the minutes somewhere.
No, Mr. Mayor, it cannot be in the minutes.
Yeah.
There is a statement from a councillor from the floor doesn't form part of the minutes of the meeting.
All right, so we'll try another way. I'd like to move an amendment. The council assign the role of planning and development to a committee of council comprised of 3 elected members of council to be announced at a later date.
So you'd
For a
like,
seconder.
yeah, so is it a substantial determined from the actual motion that's put before council? Or I'm happy to table that and bring that back at another date? Or could it be that it's a small part of an amendment of the substantial motion before us?
It will be an additional motion talking roughly about the same issue, but it's expanded from a portfolio to a committee. So the way in which I would suggest you would handle it, if Councillor Barnes can get a seconder, is that you then deal with this motion before you establish the portfolios, get a vote on that, and then you put Councillor Barnes' additional motion about establishing a planning committee.
Yeah, because we're not doing committees today, councillor. Yeah, did you want to, I
No.
know you've put,
For want of a better term, Mr. Mayor, we're assigning duties of councillors
Yeah.
across the whole range of services that we provide to the community. So I'd like it in some way be reflected from this meeting. Who sits on that committee would obviously need to be decided later on. Some might want to, some might.
yeah, so councillor Barnes, I'll bring you back to, is we're doing portfolios, not committees.
But while
So today we're deciding on portfolios, and then as already discussed previously with councillors, we would bring the committees and the makeup of those committees, because some are very historical in nature, and those committees would come back to the May meeting. And before that, they obviously would be certainly discussed and all options looked at.
So, Mr. Mayor, can I suggest a way forward for Councillor Barnes is given the fact that committees will be decided at the May meeting, would you bring forward a notice of motion to the May meeting along the lines in which you've just outlined?
Sure. Okay, Mr. Mayor, I'll amend it again. So the amendment would read that.
So in relation to the motion before us, are you asking for another change of that motion?
Yes.
All right, okay.
Or I'm happy to take it to another meeting. Because councillors would have to discuss it anyway.
Yeah, I think the appropriate way would be to present a notice of motion for consideration at the May meeting with all the committees.
So I'm happy with that.
Yeah.
So I hereby give notice that at a future meeting at the next ordinary meeting of council, a report be provided to outline the role of a planning and development committee, including
Yeah, we'll just let Councillor Barnes finish.
including the identity of 3 elected members of council.
Thanks, councillor.
So a second for that.
Yeah, it's a sense to deal with that and then go back to the original motion.
That's correct.
That's right. So we have to deal with your motion first. So obviously, councillor Barnes has put forward a motion. Did everyone hear that?
Could you
Have
repeat
you
it?
got a seconder?
Could we repeat the
Could
motion?
it be repeated, please? Just read it out again.
Repeat the motion, please.
If I can, then I will. That the report be brought to council at the next ordinary meeting, outlining the role of a planning and development committee to include 3 elected members of council and to be determined in the interim.
Okay, so, and motion's put forward. Can I have a seconder, please?
Mr Mayor, could I put an amendment to that, please?
No, you have to finish with one first. So that's been put forward. I need a before we even go back to the portfolios, we have to settle this one first. So can I have a seconder, please?
Sorry, Mr Mayor, the councillor can ask me to reword the amendment, the wording of the amendment.
You've got to get a second first.
You've got to get a seconder first, and then we go into the actual particulars. So can I have a seconder, please? Seconder is councillor Mitchell. Now back to, so now the motion is put, you, councillor Honour, you want to speak in relation to a technical matter, because otherwise this motion will go to the vote.
Mr Mayor, I want to put an amendment to that motion.
Yeah, the amendment first.
Can I hear the amendment first?
Yes, Mr Mayor, I'd like to amend that it be considered that the whole or part of the council be included in a committee or planning and development.
Mr Mayor, can I just point out that it's not an amendment because it's actually substantially changed the motion. It already includes a part of the council in the fact that Councillor Barnes has identified 3 councillors.
I believe my amendment is to amend that to either the whole council or part of the council.
So I think we can discuss that. So the matter is councillor Barnes has put forward a motion. The motion is seconded. The amendment is a substantial change to the motion that is put forward by councillor Barnes. Taking that into account, we have to first vote on this motion. That what you brought up may form a discussion at the next meeting in relation to how that would progress.
I foreshadow, Mr Mayor, that if this motion of councillor Barnes fails, I will put up another motion.
Yes, yeah. So thank you, councillor Honour. So moved, seconded, now put the motion to, oh, yeah.
Thank you, councillors. In the 20 years I've been in the role, I've never been in terms of council where elected members weren't active in the area of planning and development. At a time when we've got Polkara and all the other legislation that's coming around, as the Mayor alluded to before, it's not necessarily going to be an easy job. But we're not elected to make easy decisions. We're elected to make the right decisions. And the community would expect that we would not assign such an important role simply to protect our tails. That's not what we're here for.
By councillor Barnes, I'll just ask you to be very wise and use the council properly.
So what I'm suggesting, councillors, is that we ask for 3 councillors to put their names forward to be part of a committee. That committee would then look at and assess applications that come before it. That committee would then make a recommendation, not a decision, and that recommendation would then go to the full council for determination. So in other words, an application comes in, it gets assessed by officers, it gets looked at by the committee, by 3 individual councillors, and they make a recommendation to the whole council as to whether or not it should be approved or rejected or whatever. I think you're supporting it. I think it's the best way out. And I don't think that we need to have the whole council on there because that's just going to confuse things.
Yeah, so that's, anything else, Councillor Barnes?
No.
That's all right. Any speakers against from the floor? No. So I'll put the motion first. All those in favour? Those against? Those against being Councillor Trevor, Councillor Honour and Councillor Dempsey, to bring the matter to the next council in May.
So the amendment becomes a motion.
No, let me just clarify.
It
couldn't be an amendment because there's a motion to establish portfolios. What you were suggesting was not amending a motion, it was a secondary motion, but it was about the same issue.
Yeah, and you'll just to further clarify, the motion that you put forward was in relation to committees. So I'll now go back to the original motion that was put forward by myself and to any other queries in relation to the matter? No. I might just...
Well, we have to put it to
I'll put it to the vote there now, but I was going to discuss and bring that forward as discussion because we've got... so councillors...
That'll be done as part of
Yeah, so I just want to ensure that councillors, the information that we discussed previously will obviously form part of the information supplied to Councillor Barnes's motion later on before the next committee. So just to make sure that particularly newer councillors, that information will be put forward again. So now we're just going to go to the vote in relation to the original motion that was put forward. Is all those in favour? Those against? Sorry, question. Okay, so it's a question.
I'm just confused of what we're voting for right now.
You're voting for the original
original
motion.
portfolios.
Yeah, so the original one, the portfolio. Yeah, so I'll just, for clarity, again, is all those in favour? Those against? Councillor McPhee against. So noted, the motion is moved. The next item is part 2 of the motion, and I now move that councillors be allocated the following portfolios. Economic development is Mayor Jack Dempsey. Organisational services, Councillor Cooper. Water and waste, Councillor Bartels. Roads and drainage, Councillor Trevor. Parks and gardens, Councillor Honour. Waste and recycling, Councillor McLaughlin. Sport and recreation, Councillor Vince Haberman. Community services, Councillor Tracy McPhee. Airport, COVID-19 recovery and disaster management, Councillor Greg Barnes. Health compliance and enforcement, Councillor May Mitchell. Arts, culture and events, Councillor John Learmonth. Can I have a seconder, please? Seconder, Councillor Cooper. Any councillor wish to raise any queries or speak against the motion? No. All those in favour? Those against? There was one that didn't put their hand up, so that will be in the negative. Okay? So Councillor McPhee is in the negative.
Can I ask for clarification about?
Well, I'll just ask councillors, just as far as protocol, I'll give you a bit of advice, is when we come to a motion that's gone through and we're voting on and against a motion, if you've got a technical side, I particularly ask, does any councillor wish to ask any queries or motions? That is your time to actually ask any technical advice. Because once a motion's been moved and moved and voted on, that is the finalisation of it. Okay, so I'm happy because it's the first time for new people here today, is Councillor Mitchell.
Does a vote in the affirmative say that we're happy not to have a planning and development portfolio?
No. No, that matters. This as put forward is exactly what you're voting on there. Okay. So Councillor,
So that's,
yeah,
that was,
so Councillor McPhee, yeah.
so that clarifies, because I voted in the negative because I do feel that we need to have a planning and development portfolio.
That's not being discussed in this area. It's a separate part of the motion. So I'll just put the motion. Sorry.
So by voting, just to clarify what Councillor Mitchell said, sorry.
Yes, yeah.
By voting in the affirmative, that doesn't mean that we're agreeing to.
So to clarify that, you're actually there before you is the actual portfolios and the persons assigned to those portfolios as part 2 of the original motion put before us.
Mine's completely separate.
So I just want to, so I'll just put it to, is that enough, Councillor McPhee? Be all right? So, and I just advise councillors, and even to the community here listening, is these matters start many, many weeks before. And in the interest of openness and transparency, there is many opportunities for councillors in particular to ask any questions of the elected councillors and of the actual general managers and the CEOs to be able to clarify any particular questions or views, not so much views, but any technical advice leading into the actual finalisation of the council meetings. That, however, saying that, should in no way deter a council bringing forward any other matters that they see fit at the council time. So as it goes on, you'll certainly it's about doing all of the preparations beforehand. So anyway, I'll just that's just by way of clarity in relation to how we go about processes. So to part 2 of the item D2, I now put the matter to the vote. All those in favour? Those against? No, so moved. Next item of business is item 4. Item 4 is in the now established organisational services section. It's item F1, financial summary. So Councillor Cooper, do you wish to move this, or I'm happy to move this? So Councillor, item F1 is a summary as of the 2nd of April 2020. And the motion put before us is actually presenting the financial summary. Can I have a seconder, please? A seconder is Councillor Cooper, or is as per that is laid before you, and the documents supplied in relation to the financial summary are now obviously laid out on the table. Does any councillor wish to raise any queries or speak against the motion? No. All those in favour? Those against? No. So moved. Next item of business is item G1. It's a councillor policy review. It comes under the organisational services section. Councillor Cooper.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Council staff will soon be beginning to review the council policies, and over the coming meetings, councillors will be presented with these policies for endorsement or adoption. These policies are generally reviewed on a biannual basis, with some policies adopted annually, if required by legislation. Council Code of Conduct Policy, CP-3-012, and standing orders for council meetings and policies, in brackets CP-3-016. These policies are included for endorsement by the councillors, and no changes are recommended at this time. The electoral and other legislation, in brackets accountability, integrity and other matters, in brackets, Amenities Bill 2019, which was introduced in November 2019, will see future changes to these policies relating to registers of interest and requirements, next top point, new, and clarify conflicts of interest and requirements, and improving transparency through changes to the meeting agenda, minutes and closed meetings. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thanks. Can I have a seconder, please? A seconder, Councillor Honour. And Councillor Cooper, you should speak further in relation to the motion. No. All those in favour, any other questions or queries, any other councillors in relation to the motion put forward? No. All those in favour? Those against? So moved. The next item of business is item G2. It's also the third quarter operational plan review. I call Councillor Cooper.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. That the 2019-2020 third quarter operational plan be received and noted.
Thanks, Councillor Cooper. Can I have a seconder, please? The seconder is Councillor Bartel. Councillor Cooper, you speak further in relation to the motion.
Mr Mayor. In accordance with section 174 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, the Chief Executive Officer must present a written assessment of Council's progress towards implementing the annual operational plan and meetings held regularly at regular intervals of not more than 3 months. Quarterly reports provide a process for monitoring and assessing Council's progress in meeting the goals of the corporate plan. The attached report highlights the achievements of Council over the past 3 months, with most areas achieving the targets set. Each manager has provided a comment in the report of the departments of the sections program.
Thanks, Councillor Cooper. Any other council wish to raise any queries or speak against the motion? Councillor Haberman.
Just a couple of little queries, Mr Mayor. There was a couple of those items marked with the orange traffic lights that I just had mild concerns about, which I've spoken with the Deputy Mayor about. Those being the number of service users with improved quality of life, 2,961, instead of a target of 4,000, number of service users with improved ability and access to appropriate services, 2021, to a target of 4,000, and the other one, the percentage of roads and drainage and footpath customer requests complete with an allocated time period. There were 1,049 tasks closed, these 62%, 650 met service level requirements with an average processing time of 16 days. So I'd just like to keep an eye on those. Obviously, this is my first time in this council, but I'd like to monitor that in future operational reports to see that they are tracking.
Yeah, thanks, Councillor Haberman. We'll take that as noted in relation to views. I just encourage, as a new council, certainly those documents there again. I take it on board as noting here at an official council meeting, but certainly if there is any questions of any reports, particularly in a technical nature, I just encourage everybody to get that information beforehand, so they're satisfied in relation to the particular reports that are brought before us. So any other councillor wish to raise any queries or speak against the motion? Councillor Barnes.
Yeah, just the CEO. Steve?
Sorry, Councillor Barnes, it's through myself.
Oh, sorry.
And then I'll decide whether it goes elsewhere.
Through you to the CEO?
No, through me first.
Through you?
Yeah, correct.
Would it be right to say that a number of the orange traffic lights have been put on here subject to the COVID-19 situation that we're in? I'd imagine that many of those will be impacted.
Yeah, I take on board what you said. I'm happy to take that particularly on those, but bearing the dates of completions for the actual report. When was the report through taken up to the finalisation of the dates?
The end of March.
End of March. The end of March.
There has been some impact, and where COVID has impacted, we've noted that next to the orange traffic light.
Yeah.
And an obvious one is local borders and car parking, for instance. So,
Yeah.
Tourism.
Yep, and tourism in particular.
Tourism.
And airport.
Yes. Yeah. Thanks, Councillor Barnes. Any other queries or questions in relation to the overall report? Yeah. Thank you. So I'll now put the matter to the vote. All those in favour? Those against? No. So moved. The next items is actual G3. G3 is in relation to pay as you go. Councillor Cooper.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Again, I would like to move this item in two parts. One, the council offer contributory superannuation arrangements to its councillors, and that under section 226 of the Local Government Act 2009, council take part in the local government superannuation scheme. Mayor. Yep.
Second, please. This Councillor Bartels. Councillor Cooper, speak further in relation to the motion.
No.
Any other councillors wish to raise any queries in relation to the matter? No. All those in favour? Those against? So moved. Next item of business is part two of the actual motion. Over to you, Councillor Cooper.
Yeah, thank you again, Mr Mayor. The council determined under section 446-5 of the Schedule 1 of the Taxation Administration Act not to be treated as PAYG taxpayers.
Thank you, Councillor Cooper. Seconded is Councillor
So
Trevor.
just
Not treated.
so it's different to the
Yes.
recommendation.
Yes.
So Councillor Bartel, you happy with that clarification?
Yes, thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thanks, Ed. There is Councillor Cooper. You wish to speak further in relation to the motion?
I think again it's self-explanatory, Mr Mayor.
Any other councillor wish to raise any queries or speak against the motion? No. All those in favour? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, those against? 1, 2, 3, 4. Is Councillor Honour, Councillor Mitchell, Councillor Haveman and Councillor Dempsey. Next item of business is there are 8 items that are confidential in nature and pursuant to section 275 of the Local Government Regulation 2012. Items T1 to T7, and there is obviously a late item T8. I now move that the meeting be closed to the public, which is via streaming, pursuant to section 275 of the Local Government Regulation 2012 to discuss these confidential items. Can I have a seconder, please? Seconder is Councillor Honour. All those in favour? Those against? No, so moved. We will now temporarily suspend the live stream. I believe we're back live stream, and I thank everybody for their patience. The first item out of confidential is item T1, specialised supplier, airport car park. I now call Councillor Barnes.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Mr Mayor, this item refers to maintenance requirements at the airport car park. I'd like to move that in two parts. Part A, that council enter into an arrangement with Skidata Australia for the provision of Skidata car park components without first inviting written quotes pursuant to section 235B of the Local Government Regulation 2012, and B, this arrangement be made for an initial period of the 1st of February 2020, the 29th of January 2022, being a period of 2 years.
Can I have a seconder, please? Seconded, Councillor Haberman. I now put the matter to the vote. All those in favour? Those against? So moved. The next item of business is item T2, specialised supplier arrangements with Superior Pack Proprietary Limited for maintenance and repairs of council refuse truck compactor bodies. So I now move that council enter into arrangement with Superior Pack Proprietary Limited for the supply of maintenance and repair services of council's refuse truck compactor bodies without first inviting written quotes pursuant to section 235B of the Local Government Regulations 2012, and B, that this arrangement be made for initial period from April 2020 to March 2023. Can I have a seconder, please? Seconder is Councillor Learmont. I'll now put to the vote. All those in favour? Those against? No, so moved. Next item of business is item T3 in relation to unpaid rates. I now move that as Moore Park Beach Bowls and Sports Club Incorporated has been liquidated, the debt is unrecoverable and council write off $13,583.06 for rates and charges that were payable by Moore Park Beach Bowls and Sports Club Incorporated to the 30th of September 2019, and Part B, council issues supplementary levies to Moore Park Beach Bowls Club Incorporated from the 1st of October 2019 onwards in accordance with the lease and valuation. Can I have a seconder, please? Seconder is Councillor Bartels. I now put the matter to the vote. All those in favour? Those against? So moved. Item T4 is the sale of 13 Wallam Street, Woodgate. I now move that council applies the exception contained in section 236(1) Part A, Part I of the Local Government Regulation 2012 Queensland to the disposal of 13 Wallam Street, Woodgate, Lot 16 on SP 205671, and the Chief Executive Officer be authorised to enter into a contract of sale with the buyer and attend to all items required to finalise the sale of the property. Can I have a seconder, please? Seconder is Councillor Trevor. All those in favour? Those against? No, so moved. Next item of business is item T5. It's a sale of 5 Kincuna Drive. I now move the council apply the exception contained in section 236(1) Part A, Part I of the Local Government Regulation 2012 for Queensland to the disposal of Lot 13 on SP 205671, and the Chief Executive Officer be authorised to enter into a contract for sale with the buyer and attend to all items required to finalise the sale of the property. Can I have a seconder, please? The seconder is Councillor Barnes. All those in favour? Those against? So moved. Next item of business is item 6. It's in relation to a renewal of lease to the State of Queensland. The recommendation is that council apply the exception contained in section 236(1) Part B, Part I of the Local Government Regulation 2012, and 2, the Chief Executive Officer be authorised to enter into a 3-year sublease to State of Queensland represented by Public Safety Business Agency or PSBA for the part of the CBD Pavilion known as Lot 1 on SP 120772. Can I have a seconder, please? Seconder is Councillor Honour. I'll now put it to the vote. All those in favour? Those against? I'll just get everyone to do their hands again. Is there somewhere up there? Those in favour? Those against? So moved. Next item is item 7. It's the financial status, sustainability and COVID-19. I now move that the report be noted. Can I have a seconder, please? The seconder is Councillor McPhee. I'll now put the matter to the vote. All those in favour? Those against? So moved. Next item is item T8. It's in relation to the Audit and Risk Committee. I now move the Council delegate authority to the Chief Executive Officer to select and appoint suitable qualified external independent members to the Audit and Risk Committee in accordance with the Audit and Risk Committee Charter. We can have a seconder, please. A seconder is Councillor Cooper. I'll now put the matter to the vote. All those in favour? Those against? So moved. So I just want to thank everybody for their attendance here today. This brings to conclusion the business of today's meeting. The next meeting of council will be held on the 26th of May 2020, and I now close the meeting at 11:05. I thank you for your attendance in person as well as those on the viewing screens that are online. Thank you.